Dr. Alan Carter stood at the viewport of the survey vessel Horizon, watching as the blue-green world of Vesta-9 grew larger. His heart raced with excitement. After 15 years studying alien life forms, he might have found something truly remarkable. "Dr. Carter, you need to see this," called Samantha Wright, the ship's sensor specialist. Her fingers danced across the holographic display, bringing up detailed biological readings. "These energy signatures are unlike anything in our database." Alan studied the readings, his eyes widening. "These metabolic rates are impossible. No known species could sustain this level of activity." Commander Eric Powell entered the bridge, his weathered face set in a frown. "I just received a priority message from the Galactic Council. They're ordering us to maintain orbit and avoid landing." He handed Alan a datapad. "Apparently, we're not the first to find this planet." Alan scrolled through the report, his excitement turning to fascination. According to the Council records, 3 previous expeditions had encountered a predatory species on Vesta-9. None of the landing parties had survived. The creatures, unofficially named Shadow Claws, were described as the most lethal hunters ever documented. "The Council has classified the planet as restricted," Eric continued. "They've scheduled it for remote study only." Alan looked back at the viewport, at the swirling clouds and vast forests below. "But Commander, these readings suggest advanced neural activity. These aren't just animals. They might be intelligent." "The Council doesn't care if they're intelligent," said Maya Daniels, the security officer who had been quietly listening. "They care that these things have killed 26 researchers." Alan shook his head. "But what if those incidents were misunderstandings? First contact situations gone wrong?" Eric sighed. "Alan, I know that look. We have our orders." 3 hours later, Alan, Maya, and Eric stood in the shuttle bay. 2 other crew members, biologist Darren Voss and field technician Lisa Keller, were checking equipment. "I can't believe I let you talk me into this," Eric muttered. Alan smiled. "The Council's remote probes showed the Shadow Claws are mostly active in the southern hemisphere. We'll land in the northern forests, collect samples, and be gone before anyone knows we disobeyed orders." Maya checked her pulse rifle. "I still think this is a mistake." The landing was smooth. They established a small research camp near a flowing river, surrounded by trees with purple-tinged leaves that swayed in the gentle breeze. Alan immediately began collecting soil and plant samples, amazed by the biodiversity. As night fell, strange sounds echoed from the forest. Calls and howls unlike anything they had heard before. "Motion sensors are clear," Maya reported, but her hand never strayed far from her weapon. Alan couldn't sleep. He left his tent with a handheld scanner, drawn to the strange bioluminescent fungi growing along the riverbank. The readings were fascinating. The fungi contained compounds unknown to Earth science. A soft rustle came from behind him. Alan turned slowly, expecting to see one of his teammates. Instead, he froze. Crouched in the shadows was a creature about the size of a large dog. Its midnight black skin seemed to absorb the moonlight. 6 limbs ended in curved claws that gleamed like polished obsidian. But what caught Alan's attention were its eyes. Large, intelligent, and glowing with an amber light. A shadow claw. A juvenile, based on the Council reports. Alan should have called for help. Should have reached for his emergency beacon. Instead, he noticed something unexpected. A deep gash along the creature's side, oozing a silvery fluid. The shadow claw made a soft chittering sound, backing away slightly. It seemed more afraid than aggressive. "You're hurt," Alan whispered. The creature tilted its head, eyes blinking. It didn't advance. Against every protocol and common sense, Alan slowly reached into his pack and removed a medical scanner. The creature watched, curious rather than threatening. "I can help you," Alan said softly, knowing his words meant nothing to the alien but hoping his tone conveyed his intent. In that moment, Alan Carter made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. For 3 days, Alan kept his secret, The small cave he found half a kilometer from camp became his hidden laboratory where the young Shadowclaw rested on a bed of leaves and moss. Alan named it Midnight because of its dark, light-absorbing skin. "This goes against everything we were told," Alan muttered as he applied a healing compound to the creature's wound. The gash was closing remarkably fast. Midnight watched Alan with those intelligent amber eyes. Sometimes, the creature made soft clicking sounds or emitted brief flashes of blue light from spots along its spine. When Alan returned to camp each time, Maya gave him suspicious looks. "You're sneaking off a lot," she said on the fourth morning as Alan packed extra rations. "What are you doing out there?" "Just collecting samples," Alan said, not meeting her eyes. Maya grabbed his pack and opened it. "Sample containers don't need protein bars." She lowered her voice. "Is it one of them? Have you found one?" Alan sighed. "Follow me, but don't tell Eric." When they reached the cave, Maya immediately raised her pulse rifle when she saw Midnight. "Alan, get back." "No, don't shoot. Look at it, Maya. Really look." Midnight had backed against the cave wall, but didn't display any aggression. Instead, it made a series of clicking sounds, and the blue spots along its spine flashed in a pattern. "It's been injured, separated from its pack probably. I've been treating its wound." Maya slowly lowered her weapon. "This is crazy. The reports said these things tore apart armed soldiers. Maybe those soldiers gave them reason to." Alan approached Midnight, who extended one of its 6 limbs toward him. "I think it's trying to communicate." Maya watched in amazement as Alan gently touched the outstretched limb. "The council said they were just animals." "The council was wrong. Look at those eyes, Maya. There's intelligence there." Later that day, their camp sensors began beeping urgently. Eric rushed to the monitor. Multiple large heat signatures approaching from the south. "Moving fast." "Adult Shadowclaws," Maya said, exchanging a look with Alan. Eric activated the camp's defensive shields. "We need to evacuate. The shuttle can be here in 20 minutes. "Wait," Alan protested. "They might not be hostile." "Are you insane? Did you read the same reports I did? 26 researchers dead." Alan thought of Midnight in the cave. "I can't leave yet." "What do you mean you can't leave?" Eric demanded. Before Alan could answer, Maya stepped in. "He has ongoing experiments that need more time." Eric's face hardened. "I'm calling the shuttle. We have 15 minutes to pack essential equipment." When Eric left to contact the ship, Maya turned to Alan. "You need to decide what to do about your friend." Alan nodded and slipped away toward the cave. When he arrived, Midnight was already alert, head tilted toward the direction of the approaching Shadowclaws. "Your family is coming," Alan said softly. "You should go to them." But Midnight didn't move. Instead, it made a complex series of clicks and flashes. Alan's communication device suddenly activated. "Alan, they're surrounding the camp." Maya's voice was urgent. "But they're not attacking. They're just watching us." "I'm coming back," Alan replied. "And I'm bringing Midnight." When Alan returned to camp with the juvenile Shadowclaw walking beside him, Eric nearly collapsed in shock. "Have you lost your mind?" Eric shouted as the camp perimeter sensors showed at least 8 adult Shadowclaws circling them. "This is a direct violation of protocol. They haven't attacked because they're here for him," Alan explained, gesturing to Midnight. "They're intelligent, Eric. They communicate. We've been wrong about them." Eric's face flushed with anger. "When we get back to the ship, I'm reporting you to the council. You've endangered this entire mission." Around them, the adult Shadowclaws moved closer, their amber eyes fixed on the humans and the young one among them. Alan watched in amazement as Midnight approached the largest of the adult Shadowclaws. The two touched foreheads while making complex clicking sounds. Flashes of blue and green light pulsed along their spines in patterns that seemed intentional. "They're communicating," Alan whispered. "I knew it." Maya stood beside him, her weapon lowered but ready. What are they saying? I have no idea, but I'm going to find out. Alan pulled out his data pad and began recording the light patterns and sounds. If we could analyze the frequencies and light sequences, we might be able to understand them. Eric paced nervously inside the camp's perimeter. The shuttle will be here in 10 minutes. We're leaving, with or without you. The adult Shadow Claws maintained their distance, forming a loose circle around the camp. They made no aggressive moves. Midnight stayed with them, occasionally looking back at Alan. I need more time, Alan pleaded. This could be the greatest xenobiological discovery in human history. We already have recordings, Eric argued. We can study them from orbit. Samantha, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. I might be able to help, Alan. She approached with her sensing equipment. These subsonic vibrations they're making, they're incredibly complex, far more structured than animal communications. What are you saying? Maya asked. I'm saying these might be words. Samantha adjusted her equipment. If I patch this through the ship's translation matrix, we might get something. For the next hour, while the shuttle waited in orbit, Samantha and Alan worked frantically with their equipment. The Shadow Claws remained, watching with those intelligent amber eyes. Midnight moved between the two groups, seemingly trying to bridge the gap. I think I have something, Samantha finally said. She activated a speaker, and a computerized voice emerged. Life debt, young one, healing, gratitude. The humans fell silent. Did that just say what I think it said? Maya whispered. Alan nodded slowly. They understand that I helped Midnight. They're acknowledging a debt. Eric's communicator beeped. He listened, then turned pale. The Galactic Council just contacted the horizon. They know we landed. They're sending an enforcement vessel to quarantine the planet and remove us. We can't leave now. Alan protested. We're on the verge of establishing real communication. Samantha continued refining her translation matrix. More words came through the speaker. Many cycles. Misunderstanding. Defense only. Life bond now. They're saying the previous encounters were misunderstandings. Alan interpreted. They only attacked in defense. And what's this about a life bond? Maya asked. As if in answer, Midnight approached Alan and extended 3 of its limbs. The largest adult Shadow Claw made a series of clicks and flashes. The translation came through. Human healer bound to young one. Pack accepts. Protection offered. I think you've been adopted, Alan, Samantha said with a hint of awe in her voice. Eric shook his head. This doesn't change anything. The Council has ordered our immediate withdrawal. They won't care about translations or life bonds. Then we need more proof. Alan knelt before Midnight and the adult Shadow Claws. Can you show us where you live? Your home. After Samantha translated, the largest Shadow Claw, clearly the pack leader, turned and gestured with 2 limbs toward the forest. They want us to follow them, Alan said. Eric grabbed Alan's arm. Absolutely not. The shuttle is almost here. You go back with the shuttle, Alan decided. Take our initial findings. Maya, Samantha, and I will go with the Shadow Claws and gather more evidence. The Council will never approve this, Eric warned. Then don't tell them. Alan met his commander's eyes. Buy us some time. Tell them we're studying plants or something. The enforcement vessel won't be here for at least 3 days. Eric looked conflicted, but finally nodded. 72 hours. That's all I can give you. As the shuttle descended to retrieve Eric, Alan, Maya, and Samantha gathered their equipment and prepared to follow the Shadow Claws, or as Alan now believed they should be properly called, the Nimara, based on sounds they repeatedly made when referring to themselves. Midnight walked beside Alan, occasionally brushing against his leg like a strange alien pet. But Alan knew this was no pet. This was a member of an intelligent species that had been tragically misunderstood by humanity. The Shadow Claws led Alan, Maya, and Samantha deeper into the forest. The vegetation grew thicker, with strange purple vines hanging from towering trees. Alan recorded everything on his datapad, while Samantha continued refining her translation device. According to the horizon scans, we're heading toward a mountain range, Maya said, checking her navigation tool. About 15 kilometers from here. Midnight stayed close to Alan, occasionally making soft clicking sounds that the translation device interpreted as concern or questions about their well-being. The adult shadow claws moved with incredible grace, sometimes using all 6 limbs to traverse difficult terrain, other times walking upright on 4 limbs while using their upper limbs to move branches aside. They're perfectly adapted to this environment, Alan observed. Look how they navigate without disturbing anything around them. By nightfall, they reached a series of caves at the base of the mountains. The entrance was marked with strange symbols carved into the rock, definitive proof of intelligence and culture. This is amazing, Samantha whispered as she scanned the symbols. Preliminary analysis suggests these might be territorial markers or clan identifications. Inside the caves, they discovered a complex living space. Different chambers served different purposes: sleeping areas, food storage, and what appeared to be a gathering place with a central fire pit. The walls were decorated with more symbols and primitive paintings showing shadow claws hunting and interacting with their environment. They have art, Maya said, her previous fear completely replaced by wonder. They're not just intelligent. They have culture. As they explored, Alan's communicator buzzed. Eric's voice came through, strained and urgent. Alan, we have a problem. The enforcement vessel arrived early. They'll reach the planet by morning. Commander Olivia Grant is leading the team, and she's not interested in your discoveries. She has orders to remove all humans and establish a level 1 quarantine. That would mean no contact allowed, Alan replied. They'd classify the entire species as dangerous. Exactly. And Grant has authorization to use lethal force against the Shadow Claws if necessary. Ellen looked at Midnight and the other Shadow Claws who had welcomed them into their home. We can't let that happen. After ending the communication, Alan explained the situation to Maya and Samantha. The translation device relayed their conversation to the Shadow Claws. The pack leader approached, making a series of complex clicks and flashes. The translation came through broken but clear enough. Humans came before, brought weapons, attacked young ones. We defended. The previous expeditions, Samantha realized. They must have threatened the Shadow Claws first. We need to move deeper into the territory, Alan decided. Buy time to gather more evidence before Grant's team finds us. That night, as they prepared to move at dawn, Alan noticed Midnight examining his datapad with obvious curiosity. He showed the young Shadow Claw how to operate the simple functions, and to his amazement, Midnight quickly learned to navigate the interface. Their learning capacity is remarkable, he told Maya. If we could just show the Council this level of intelligence. Morning brought the sound of distant engines. Grant's team had landed and was already tracking them. They're using thermal scanners, Maya warned, checking her own equipment. They'll find us within hours. The pack leader made a decision, communicated through a series of clicks and flashes. The translation device interpreted. Ancient place, human ancestors. Proof there. They want to take us somewhere, Alan said. Somewhere that might help our case. As they journeyed deeper into Shadow Claw territory, the forest gave way to older growth and strange rock formations that seemed partially artificial. In the distance, Alan spotted what appeared to be ruins of some kind. Behind them, the enforcement team's vehicles grew louder. Grant's voice came over a public address system, amplified to echo through the forest. Dr. Carter, this is Commander Olivia Grant. You are in violation of Galactic Council Directive 1138. Surrender immediately with all research materials. This is your only warning. The hunt had begun, and Alan knew that the lives of an entire species might depend on what they discovered in those ancient ruins ahead. The ruins rose before them like the skeleton of a forgotten civilization. Stone pillars covered in moss supported arches that framed the entrance to what appeared to be a temple or meeting hall. The shadow claws moved reverently among the ancient structures, their clicking sounds softening to almost whispers. "This is incredible," Samantha breathed, scanning the stone carvings that decorated the pillars. "These appear to be at least 1,000 years old." Alan followed Midnight deeper into the ruins. The young Shadow Claw seemed eager to show him something specific. They entered a large circular chamber with a domed ceiling. Moonlight filtered through openings in the roof, illuminating a central platform. "Look at this," Maya called, directing her light to one wall. "These carvings." The wall depicted two distinct species interacting. One was clearly the Shadow Claws with their 6 limbs and distinctive shape. The other was bipedal with elongated heads. Another alien species, Alan realized. The Shadow Claws had contact with interstellar visitors before. The pack leader approached the platform and pressed its limbs against certain symbols. To everyone's surprise, sections of the floor began to glow with a soft blue light. "It's still active," Samantha said in amazement. "Some kind of ancient technology." The translation device captured the pack leader's explanation. "Star visitors, long cycles past, taught, shared knowledge, left when great darkness came. They're saying another species visited them and shared knowledge," Alan interpreted. "They had a relationship until something happened, some disaster or conflict." Maya's attention shifted to her scanner. Movement outside. "Grant's team is closing in." The pack leader continued. "Your kind different, like star visitors, understand through touch and healing, not through fear and weapons." Alan suddenly understood. The previous human expeditions approached them with weapons drawn, acting like predators. They responded in kind. But because I helped Midnight, they saw another possibility. A young Shadowclaw cub suddenly darted into the chamber, making urgent clicking sounds. The adults became alert instantly. Human hunters, weapons hot, approaching fast. The translation device interpreted. "They're going to attack," Maya warned. Outside, they heard Commander Grant's amplified voice. "Secure the perimeter. All Shadow Claws are to be considered hostile, authorized to use lethal force." The pack leader made a decision, indicated by a series of rapid flashes along its spine. Half the Shadow Claws moved to defensive positions while others gathered the cubs. "We need to stop Grant before anyone gets hurt," Alan said. "I'm going out to talk to her." "That's too dangerous," Maya protested. Before anyone could argue further, a high-pitched whine filled the air, followed by an explosion that shook the ancient structure. The enforcement team had fired some kind of explosive device. In the confusion, a section of the ceiling collapsed. A young Shadowclaw cub was caught directly beneath the falling debris. Without hesitation, Alan lunged forward, pushing the cub out of the way. The stone struck him instead, pinning his leg to the floor. Pain shot through his body as he cried out. The adult Shadowclaws froze, watching. In their culture, such self-sacrifice was the highest form of pack bonding. Midnight and several adults rushed to Alan's side, working together to lift the stone off his crushed leg. As blood pooled beneath him, Alan felt himself growing lightheaded. The pack leader pressed something against his wound, a paste made from local plants with remarkable healing properties. The pain began to subside almost immediately. Outside, Grant's voice continued. "Surrender now, or we will enter with full force." Samantha looked at Maya. "We have to do something." Maya nodded, her decision made. She activated her communicator. "Eric, this is Maya. You need to see what we found. The Shadow Claws aren't what we thought. Tell the Horizon to send all our data to the Council immediately." On the Horizon, Eric received the transmission along with video footage of the ruins, the ancient technology, and the Shadow Claws helping Alan. His hand hovered over the controls as he made his choice. Meanwhile, in the ruins, Alan watched through pain-blurred vision as the Shadow Claws formed a protective circle around him. Not as monsters, but as a family protecting one of their own. "Thank you," he whispered to Midnight, who remained by his side, amber eyes filled with concern. The Shadow Claw's response came through the translator. "Life bond. Family now." Alan's leg throbbed with pain despite the healing pace the Shadow Claws had applied. Midnight remained by his side while Maya and Samantha worked to reinforce the chamber entrance against Grant's team. "They're setting up energy barriers outside," Maya reported, checking her scanner. "They're preparing for a full assault." The pack leader made a series of complex clicks and flashes. The translation device interpreted. "Ancient Ones left defense. Can activate. Need human help." "What does that mean?" Samantha asked. The pack leader guided Alan's hand to a panel on the central platform. Symbols glowed beneath his touch in a way they hadn't for the Shadow Claws. "I think the technology responds to our DNA," Alan realized. The star visitors they'd mentioned might have been genetically similar to humans. A holographic display suddenly appeared above the platform, showing the ruins, the surrounding forest, and the positions of Grant's team. "It's a security system," Samantha said in amazement. Outside, Commander Olivia Grant directed her team of 12 enforcement officers to surround the ruins. "Prepare the sonic disruptors," she ordered. "They'll incapacitate the creatures without killing them." Her second-in-command approached. "Commander, we've received a message from the horizon. Captain Powell is requesting that we hold position. He says Dr. Carter has made a significant discovery." "Captain Powell has no authority in this operation," Grant replied coldly. "The Council's directives are clear. This planet is to be quarantined and all human personnel removed immediately." Inside the ruins, Alan studied the ancient control panel. With Midnight's guidance, he began to understand the system's purpose. "This isn't just a defensive system," he told Maya and Samantha. "It's a communication hub. The ancient visitors built it to broadcast across interstellar distances." A loud boom echoed through the chamber as Grant's team began their assault on the outer walls. "We're out of time," Maya said. Alan made a decision. "Help me up." With Samantha's support, he limped to the central platform. The pack leader and several adult Shadow Claws formed a protective circle around them. "If I can activate this system, we might be able to broadcast what we've learned directly to the Council," Alan explained. "Show them the truth about the Shadow Claws." As Grant's team breached the outer defenses, Alan worked frantically with the ancient technology. Midnight seemed to understand what he needed, guiding his hands to different controls. On the horizon, Eric Powell made his own decision. "Transmit all our data on the Shadow Claws to every Council world," he ordered the communications officer. "And prepare my shuttle. I'm going down there." Grant's team breached the final barrier. They stormed into the central chamber, weapons raised. "Dr. Carter, step away from the aliens," Grant commanded. Alan didn't move from the platform. "Commander Grant, these creatures are intelligent and peaceful. They only defended themselves when threatened." "I have my orders," Grant said firmly. "This species has been classified as lethal predators. The planet will be quarantined." "You're wrong," Alan insisted, "and I can prove it." At that moment, Midnight stepped forward between Alan and the enforcement team. The young Shadow Claw made no aggressive moves but stood its ground. Grant raised her weapon. "Move aside, Dr. Carter. Final warning." "Wait," Samantha called out. "Look at the platform." The ancient technology had fully activated. The holographic display expanded, showing not just the local area, but the entire planet. Lines of energy began to pulse from the ruins to similar structures across Vestinine. "What is this?" Grant demanded. "The truth," Alan replied. With Midnight's help, Alan had activated the planet's ancient communication network. Suddenly, the chamber was filled with holographic images from across the planet. Hundreds of Shadow Claw communities, their art, their family structures, their technology. The translation device began broadcasting in clear galactic standard. We are Nimara. We seek understanding. We offer peace. Grant's team lowered their weapons in shock as the message repeated, broadcasting not just in the chamber, but to every council world via the ancient network. The door burst open again. Eric Powell rushed in, breathing hard. The council just received your transmission, Alan. Every world is seeing this. Grant's communicator beeped urgently. She listened, her expression changing from determination to confusion. My orders have been rescinded, she said slowly. The council is convening an emergency session to review the status of this species. Alan looked at Midnight, whose amber eyes seemed to hold a new hope. Around them, the ancient technology continued to broadcast the true nature of the Shadow Claws, the Nimara, to the galaxy. 2 weeks later, Alan stood before the Galactic Council on their central world, Nexus Prime. His leg had healed remarkably well thanks to the Nimara's medicine, though he still walked with a slight limp. Beside him stood Midnight, who now wore a specially designed translator that converted his clicks and flashes into clear galactic standard speech. The council chamber was massive, with representatives from over 200 species seated in ascending rings. Many leaned forward in their seats, fascinated by the sight of a human standing shoulder to shoulder with what had been considered the galaxy's most lethal predator. Dr. Alan Carter, announced the council chairperson, an elderly Vexillian with silver skin, you stand before us to present the case for reclassification of the species known as Shadow Claws, which you claim call themselves Nimara. The council will hear your testimony. Alan stepped forward. Honored council members, for decades we have misunderstood the Nimara. We approached them with weapons and fear, and they responded to the threat we presented. It was a tragic cycle of misunderstanding that cost lives on both sides. Holographic displays activated around the chamber, showing footage from Alan's time with the Nimara. Their complex social structures, their art, their technology, and most importantly, their gentle interactions with the human team once trust was established. The Nimara are not mindless predators, but a sentient species with a rich culture, Alan continued. They have art, language, history, and a deep connection to their world. Their physical adaptations make them appear threatening to us, but they use these traits primarily for survival in their challenging environment. Midnight stepped forward, his translator converting his communication. We Nimara remember the ancient visitors who came before. We remember the sharing of knowledge. When humans first came, they brought weapons that killed our young. We defended our families, as any would. But Alan healed instead of harmed. He showed another way. Commander Grant, who had been recalled to testify, spoke next. While I followed council protocols based on previous information, I must acknowledge that the classification of the Nimara was based on incomplete and flawed data. Dr. Carter's team has provided evidence that contradicts our previous understanding. The council deliberated for hours. Finally, the chairperson spoke again. The council recognizes the Nimara as a sentient species with the right to self-determination. Their territory on Vestinine is hereby established as sovereign space with diplomatic status. The quarantine is lifted, replaced with controlled cultural exchange protocols. Cheers erupted from the human delegation. Maya and Samantha embraced while Eric nodded with satisfaction. The chairperson continued. Furthermore, this case has revealed something unexpected about humans. While other species in our alliance excel in various areas, the Vexillians in mathematics, the Dorath in physical sciences, humans have demonstrated a unique ability to bridge communication gaps and establish connections across profound differences. Alan looked at Midnight, who made a soft, clicking sound of approval. Therefore, the chairperson concluded, we propose that Dr. Alan Carter serve as the first human Nimara ambassador, establishing a permanent diplomatic mission on Vestinine. This mission will focus on cultural exchange and the recovery of the ancient knowledge left by the star visitors millennia ago. As the session ended, Alan and Midnight stood on a balcony overlooking the gleaming capital city. The stars above represented countless worlds, many still unexplored. "What will you do now that you're officially an ambassador?" Maya asked, joining them. Ellen smiled. "Continue what we started, understanding the Nimara, learning from them, and teaching them about us. The ancient ruins contain knowledge that could benefit both our species." Midnight's translator conveyed his thoughts. "Our elders speak of a prophecy, that the star visitors would return when we were ready to join the greater community of worlds. Perhaps they meant humans all along." Eric approached with a datapad. "The Horizon has been reassigned as your support vessel, with diplomatic status. We're ready when you are, Ambassador Carter." As they prepared to return to Vestinine, Alan reflected on how a simple act of compassion, helping a wounded creature instead of fearing it, had changed galactic history. The Nimara were no longer seen as monsters, but as valuable new allies. "Sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't a predator," Alan told Midnight as they boarded the shuttle. "It's a misunderstanding." Midnight's reply came clear through the translator. "And sometimes the greatest strength isn't in claws or weapons, but in the courage to extend a hand in friendship when all others would turn away."